What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and I thought this would be kind of a fun, Black Friday video to do. Maybe Ubisoft was getting in the mode of Black Friday and the holidays because we're talking about ad pop-ups. Now, this is something that's happened the last few years in gaming, and I'll give you my maybe controversial opinions on them in a second, but this one is easily the worst, I believe, that we've ever seen, and it's simply because it appears in the game while you're playing the game, disrupting the game itself. Now, we've had examples with like sports games where it'll be like in-game almost commercial, right? It'll be like in a replay, and it'll be a replay, and it'll be an ad for like the newest version of the basketball game or the football game or whatever, right? And I think that, or like UFC, I think is actually where it kind of popped up. And that's abysmal. Okay, I despise that stuff, even if it's placed in a spot where it's supposed to like break you out from the game. And sports are an okay medium for that, right? Because you're in it and then you take a little bit of a break and it's some sort of ad thing, real world sports, right? And then you go back into it. So it makes sense, but it's crossing a line in my opinion. Well, this time it happened when you're playing the game, and I believe it happened when somebody was playing Odyssey and they clicked on the map. They pressed the button to have the map show up, and instead of the map showing up, or before the map showed up, it was an ad. It was a pop-up thing for, I think, 20% off of Assassin's Creed Mirage. Now, Assassin's Creed Mirage is a good game, and I would actually recommend it to people, but I am not going to push that on you in a pop-up ad during your game session when you're playing a single-player game. So a few things to talk about. Number one, Ubisoft did say that was an error. Okay, and I want to give them, I want to at least say that out loud. I don't know if I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that it truly was a mistake. It could have been something that they were testing, that they have to lie about now and say, oh, no, like this was a mistake. And behind the scenes, they're saying, okay, that test didn't work, like pull it down. But you know what? Like, you need to talk about these things, right? You need to make a big deal of these things because this is how it gets progressively worse. And while this is a clear overstepping, some sort of line, if you don't say something or if you just kind of lay down and accept, well, 2, 3, 4 years from now, this could be the norm. Xbox, when the Call of Duty thing popped up, when you like started your console or whatever the heck, that thing was, I think that happened to me a few days after it was being kind of shown online. Like, I saw the story online first, and I hadn't played my Xbox in a few days when that was happening. A few days later, I did it, and it actually did pop up for me as well. It's not nearly as big of a deal, but it's still, like, it's something I do think you have to kind of fight back on. So here's my controversial thoughts. I'm opposed to this kind of anywhere. I guess, like, if you're starting up the console, if you haven't picked the game that you're playing yet, do they like reserve the right to throw an ad at you? I suppose. And you definitely reserve the right to like get rid of that ad and say I never want to see it again. But for me, when this started happening, and like sports games, right? It primarily happens for sports games, shooters, Call of Duty, Battlefield. What I'm getting at is I really started to piece out, or I really started to really not like it from the earliest days of, maybe it was, I don't even, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, whenever it started happening, where it was probably like NHL, when NHL would like promote the next game in their game, whether it be at the bottom, right? So you're in like the startup menu and you pick the mode you're going to play, right, in NHL, and at the bottom, there's the thing scrolling and it's an ad, or there's a little block at the bottom right, normally reserved for more like live servicey things, right? Like a certain pack is on sale, or like check out this thing, or, even like back in the day, Uncharted 2, I think, the very first multiplayer of Uncharted, right? Didn't they have like a screen at the bottom of a menu where it would show highlights from the community? Maybe it was Uncharted 3. Like, normally, and Apex will have it, Battlefield, not like highlights, but it'll have some sort of block where it'll say, hey, this microtransaction pack, or like this battle pass will be on sale, or this cosmetic is now out. And that would sometimes be replaced with an ad for like the next thing. And I mean, already I think having an ad for like a microtransaction in your game, that's already like right at the edge of a moral line for me. But once you start advertising for like the next thing, to me, and this is all like my own personal opinion, to me it pulls me out of it. So like when I'd be playing NHL, I don't know, 14, and it would promote NHL 15, it's like, yeah, maybe I needed to see that. Maybe some people didn't know that like the next NHL game was coming out. How? I don't know. But maybe some people, but I don't. And you're kind of breaking me out of the escapism. I'm a big escapism guy, and I don't say it, I guess, too often, but that really is something I'm pretty big on. And in this case, I think it's more like fundamental, right? When you go into a game, when you go into Assassin's Creed, when you go into the UFC games, you're there to play the game. When you're playing the game and you have your little, highlight package thing that happens, and in that highlight package is a quick little 5 to 10 second ad for the next UFC game, you break the immersion that you're in this UFC game. So you, in my opinion, you don't ruin it, but you severely hurt the escapism part of like why you're playing that game. For this, it is like, and the reason I'm bringing in so many like past examples, well, number one, it's how you get here. It's how you get here. And number two, I guess to illustrate, this is like, obviously it's the worst case scenario. Like you don't want this. And so let's kind of talk about some other examples as well, being another reason why we talked about it. But, for something like this, yeah, clearly this is not what you do, right? When you go to look at your map in your future Horizon game or Ghost of Tsushima or Assassin's Creed or any game that has a freaking map, Final Fantasy, you don't want an ad for 20% off a different game, okay? You're not at that game right now. You're not at the store. You're not on the online store page for that game. You are playing, in this case, you're playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. You are immersed, like you're supposed to literally be, like that's the point, right? It's actually an RPG, a role-playing game. You're supposed to be taking over the role of that character. So you're in that game. And I mean, that's like a very, obviously, maybe like nitpicking, maybe that's not the right word, but like I'm taking it all the way, right? Like I'm going all the way where like when you play a game, you're invested, you're synced with that game. Why would you want a freaking ad for a different thing? Now, that's part of it. That's part of it. And maybe some people don't agree. Maybe some people would say, and that's fine. Maybe some people would say, well, as long as it doesn't like impede the game you're playing, it's fine. So like, the NHL example or whatever, if it's a scrolling thing on the bottom, many people don't care. And that's fine. Like, ultimately, look, I still played those games, right? I played NHL all the way up to like just a few years ago. I actually stopped a few years ago, but I played 10, 11 years in a row. So I was around when they would advertise like the next game. I allowed it. Like, to me, like I still played the game. It's not like, oh, I'm rage quitting, I'm done with this game. No, I still played them, but it is important to say this. This is how you get here. You start there. You start with things that it's not in your eyesight. Maybe some people didn't even see it, right? But you're these companies and you say, well, look, we really want people to see it. Like, we're trying to get it, we're trying to get people used to it, right? So we're going to put it here, but they're, maybe some people completely ignore it. They don't even know it's being scrolled at the bottom of their screen. But here's the thing. We really need to start pushing this. So how about the next game, we start to have like a literal ad pop up? What if we do it during like a highlight package in a UFC or a Madden? Or, well, what if now when you hit the map, or what if when you go to strike an enemy in this game, what if an ad stops you from striking the enemy and you have to like exit the ad? Obviously that is extreme exaggeration, but you know what? Error or not with this Assassin's Creed thing, it is extremely close to you open a door to start a cutscene and the game is paused by an ad. And yes, again, that is also an example, but like you might get there one day. You might. Some moron, I guess like an idiot company might try that. And they're not going to try it right away on a game like that. They'll try in other places, but like they are doing it in other places. Eventually, they'll keep going. So I'm not saying you have to start a freaking revolution. Okay, you do what you want to do. If you like the ad, well, buy Assassin's Creed Mirage when you see the ad, right? Or you can exit out of it. Like it doesn't, I'm saying my thoughts on this. I'm not saying you have to throw a big fit and block, Ubisoft on Twitter or, whatever a revolution like you would want to start. You don't have to do that. But I'm just trying to bring awareness to it where clearly this was a mistake. And it probably was an error, okay? Probably was. But you're seeing it get closer and closer to, like, reality, where it's not an error. It's, like, how it's meant to be. This is what was supposed to happen. Maybe we were caught, and it was supposed to happen, but now we have to pretend like it was an error, right? We are close to that, regardless. We are close to that. So it's just something to kind of keep in mind that it could get to a point where, yeah, because checking a map is, in a way, breaking something with that game, and breaking as in like the immersion, right? So when you're walking around an open world game, GTA, and then you go and you click the map, you're still in the game, and technically you're like planning something you're going to do in the map, in the game. So you're still in it. But that is, in a way, that is a break point. Like I mentioned with like highlight packages in sports games, it is a break point. That is where an ad logically, if you follow their idiotic logic, that is where an ad could fit. And so I could see that happening one day. I really could. And I think it just kind of takes everybody laughing at it or being angry about it, whatever way you want to express it. It takes this kind of stuff to make sure you push back and you say, no, like we're not doing that. We already have lives. We have games that you want us to play for 7 years every single day for those 7 years. That's already a little bit, extreme. We're not going to do this thing where we're playing a single player game where you're not supposed, you don't need the internet. You don't need this. You don't need that. You're playing a single player game. Me personally, I do not want to be fed ads for other games. There's a different time for that. You could do that like on the store page. Like you could pay for the ad. You should not be putting that in a game for a different game because like Mirage doesn't exist in Odyssey, right? Like in the most like full on, escapism, the most full on like immersion of that game, Mirage isn't there. So like why is it on my screen? That's just how I look at it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.